If you're in the market for a small SUV, there's a pretty good chance you've probably taken a look at a Subaru Crosstrek. That vehicle has been the top seller in its segment for years, and it really proved to other brands that Americans would buy a small hatchback as long as you lifted it up and gave it more off-road capability. Now, thankfully, Toyota entered this space with the Corolla Cross back in 2022. They followed it up with the first ever hybrid version, finally introducing an electrified powertrain in this subcompact SUV space. And as you can see this week, we are getting behind the wheel of this 2024 Corolla Cross Hybrid XSE, the top version of the Corolla Cross. And just like the Prius, it uses the same 2-liter naturally aspirated engine with 3 electric motors, standard all-wheel drive, nearly 200 horsepower, and up to 45 MPG. So if you guys are looking for a small SUV like this and you don't necessarily require the most off-road capability, but you want better fuel efficiency, how does the latest 2024 Corolla Cross Hybrid stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling for the Corolla Cross Hybrid, I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, just like the previous model year that I tested, Toyota continues to offer a choice between 2 different powertrains, the standard gas-only engine or this hybrid option, which continues to be a segment exclusive in the subcompact SUV market. Now, if you guys are familiar with the latest generation Prius, this vehicle essentially uses that same powertrain. It's a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder that runs on the Atkinson cycle. It's paired up with 3 electric motors. So you have 2 at the front and a separate electric motor at the rear, giving this vehicle electronic all-wheel drive, electronic on-demand all-wheel drive. The gas engine on its own delivers around 150 horsepower. When you add the outputs of the electric motor, Toyota says this vehicle has a combined output of 196 horsepower, which is the same as that you'll get in the Prius. Torque figures, they don't quote a combined torque figure, but you have roughly 139 pound-feet from the gas engine and another 150 from the electric motor componentry. It all goes out through electronic CVT transmission, a continuously variable transmission, and like I said earlier, electronic on-demand all-wheel drive is standard. Fuel economy is the best in the segment. It's rated at 45 in the city, 38 on the highway. That's on regular grade fuel, of course. 42 is your combined MPG rating. This has around a 10.5 gallon fuel tank, so you're looking at just under 400 miles of range between fill-ups, of course, depending on whether you drive mostly in the city or the highway. Toyota doesn't quote a 0 to 60 time. We got just over 7 seconds in our last test with this vehicle last year. It should have a top speed of just shy of 115 miles an hour. This vehicle will still surprisingly tow a maximum of 1,500 pounds, and as this car sits, it weighs in at just over 3,400 pounds, or about the same weight as the rest of its competitors, a little bit heavier versus a Prius with all-wheel drive. But closing up the hood, let's go ahead and take a look at the exterior styling for this vehicle. You can see my particular test car has this really nice 2-tone color combination with the blue and the black roof. It's an extra $500 upcharge. The hybrid version of the Corolla Cross has a slightly different front fascia. Remember, they introduced the hybrid last year, and I'm surprised that Toyota didn't want to adopt this front end on the gas-powered version as well. You can see there's kind of like this little mail slot looking thing where it doesn't actually have a hole to allow for air to pass through for the grille. You can see the Toyota logo has this kind of blacked out covering over it. This is where the radar sensor lives for the adaptive cruise control, the pre-collision assist, etc. You can see the headlights. All Corolla Crosses come standard with with LED headlights, but you can see this model here, being the XSE, includes the upgraded adaptive full LEDs. So you have an LED daytime running light, LED low and high beams, LED turn signals. These headlights also swivel in the direction that you turn the wheel, and you also get these LED fog lights down here, which is nice. A lot of brands have been getting rid of the fog lights, and you can see the Toyota grille has definitely been widened. It's got some black accents with some flat black accents. And let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the styling of this vehicle. I'm still not quite in love with the look of this car. I think Toyota did a better job with the RAV4's design. I think there's a reason why a lot of people tend to choose a Crosstrek or even an HRV. Hyundai's new Kona also looks better, but styling is always subjective. I think this is definitely a better looking vehicle versus the Toyota CHR, which technically this vehicle replaced. Now, moving around the side profile, this is built on the TNGA-C architecture. It has a 103.9 inch long wheelbase with an overall length just over 176 inches long. A RAV4 hybrid, for example, is around 4 inches longer than this vehicle. And if you're looking at an HRV or a Crosstrek, that's between 3 to 4 inches longer as well. So kind of keep that in mind. The Corolla Cross is on the smaller end for its segment. You can see the wheel arch trim here is unpainted. It's got a flat gray design. You can see the XSE includes this black accented with a two-tone machine finish wheel. It's an 18-inch wheel on a Goodyear all-season tire, riding on a 225 by 55 R18. You do have all-disc brakes around the vehicle. I believe that's an 11.1-inch rotor at the front, same size at the rear. You have an all-independent suspension, no adaptive dampers. The rear is also independent. That's included when you guys go for the hybrid trim. You have around 8 inches of ground clearance, so it's not bad. Something like the Crosstrek offers around 8.7 inches of ground clearance, so kind of keep that in mind. The XSE grade also includes these black painted side mirrors with integrated turn signals. No 360 camera on this vehicle. And you can see here, there's some chrome trim. There is a new Nightshade Edition trim, which is new for 2024. That kind of blacks out this little chrome trim here, along with giving you different wheels, blacked out headlights. You can see there's also a sunroof included with my test car because it has a convenience package, just a standard sunroof, no pano sunroof. Obviously, you can see there's some aerodynamic roof rails. You can also get crossbars for it. And then looking at this angle here, you can see this is probably where I think the Corolla Cross looks a little bit better. It has almost like baby RAV4 in its actual profile. There is a very subtle all-wheel drive badge here, as you can see, to let people know that this is all-wheel drive. There's also a Corolla Cross badge over here on the D pillar. And then looking at the rear, you can see the XSE grade is the only grade to give you these LED tail lights, where you can see you have an LED turn signal, LED brake lights. The reverse light is just an incandescent, however. There's a small, subtle rear spoiler back here, and then you can see there's a rear window wiper, more of that blacked out badging, which I really like. Looks good with this blue exterior color. You can see XSE hybrid badge there to let everyone know you have a hybrid. And then down here you can see there is actually a visible exhaust tip, although Toyota didn't put a chrome tip around it. I suspect some owners may do that from the aftermarket. Surprised also to see that there are parking sensors on this vehicle. Even though it's a small car, it's great to see Toyota including some of that tech features. Now, looking at the cargo area, this is where the Corolla Cross does offer an ace up its sleeve, a power lift gate. That is part of the convenience package that rolls in the sunroof as well. For an extra $1,000, you can't even get a power lift gate on a Crosstrek or an HRV. Which again, this is a very nice feature to have. And in terms of the cargo space, the Corolla Cross is a small subcompact SUV, and you're going to notice that in the trunk. You have around 21.5 cubic feet of space. That's a reduction of about 3.5 compared to the gas engine only Corolla Cross, because remember, the hybrid batteries do take up a little bit of space in here. If you fold down the second row seats, which you can, but not from back here, Toyota doesn't quote an actual figure of maximum cargo capacity, but most competitors have between 45 to 55 cubic feet. I'd say this is probably on the lower end of that scale. Get a RAV4 if you want more cargo space. Now, underneath the floor here, you can see there is no temporary spare tire, it looks like. Correct, no spare tire, you just have a fix-a-flat kit and an air compressor. You could technically fit one here, like a donut spare if you want to get one from the aftermarket. No, not much in terms of additional storage because of that foam piece. But overall, you can see the cargo area is still pretty usable. But just remember, the Crosstrek and HRV is going to offer a little bit more space. So the exterior styling of the Corolla Cross didn't change at all for 2024, but what about the interior? But now, before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is Toyota's smart key access system with push button start. You can see this is their newer key fob design, where it has the usual buttons here for lock, unlock, a power lift gate, which you're not going to find in a lot of its competitors, and a panic function, obviously. There's also a remote start from the fob itself. If you push the lock button in sequence 3 times and then hold it, it'll also activate the remote start. And if you guys have access to the Toyota Connected Services app from your smartphone, you should also be able to ping this vehicle as well. Now you can see coming up to the door handle, it's a traditional pull style door handle. There's a little ridge area here. If you touch that, that locks the door for you. I don't know, so many Toyota vehicles will do that extra beep when I lock the doors. Not sure what that means. If you guys know, let me know in the comment section below. Toyota does not offer an auto walkaway lock or unlock feature, so that's something that I wish that they would consider adding. You can see, touch the back of the door handle, that will unlock the door for you. Now, I hope you guys like a black interior, because if you guys want the hybrid in this XSE trim, it only comes with this black Softex with the contrasting blue stitching and blue accents. These seats are also heated, which is nice, 2-level heated, and you also have an 8-way power driver's seat for the driver's side. The passenger seat is just a 4-way manual, no actual memory seats, no cooled seats. You don't typically find cooled seats in the segment, but you can see the seats themselves. They definitely have more aggressive bolsters, and they just look sportier So they actually are a surprisingly nice looking seat. It goes well with the Blue Crush metallic exterior color with the matching blue seats. Now you can see door panel materials are soft touch injection molded plastic with the faux stitching, some aluminum accents here on the door handle and on the grab handle here. It's slightly padded here. The window controls are one touch for all four. Wasn't expecting Toyota to do that. They have a typical high quality feel to them. No power folding mirrors, like I said, no memory seats. You have a little bit of storage here. And then my test car has the optional 9-speaker JBL premium sound system, which sounds decent. If you guys are an audiophile, it may be worth the extra few $100s to actually tick the option box for it. Now, as I get inside the Corolla Cross with 8 inches of ground clearance, it definitely doesn't feel quite as high as like a RAV4 or even like a Crosstrek. To me feels like it's a little bit taller. As I get in and shut the door, the door does not have a solid sounding thunk. This in the Corolla sedan has like a little rattle. It sounds tinny. I don't love the way the door sounds. It doesn't make a great first impression for quality. So that's something I hope Toyota will work on for the next generation. Now getting inside, start stop button is located here on the dash. It's kind of blocked by the steering wheel. You can see when you turn the vehicle on, it has the usual Toyota chime, and then the XSE grade includes a 7-inch infotainment or instrument cluster. The other trims will have a smaller 4.2-inch unit. This is, again, not the full digital display you can get in like the RAV4, but it certainly looks nice, but it's only included on this XSE grade. You can hear the engine has turned on. It's a hybrid, so the only thing it'll say is ready in the instrument panel to let you know that the vehicle is on. Most of the times it'll just whir to life, and you can see here, most Corolla Crosses will also have this 8-inch infotainment system. That's the largest screen that you can get. It has their latest Toyota Connected Services software behind it. As you can see, my phone is connected via wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It also has over-the-air updates. You can also tap this right here on the screen and expand the CarPlay to take up the entire screen. It is definitely looking on the small side. Now, compare that to the Crosstrek, which has nearly a 12-inch display. Even the HR-V has a 9-inch display. The Seltos and the Kona have either a 10 or a 12-inch display. So Toyota needs to kind of upgrade the size of the screen here. Even in this segment, people are starting to expect a little bit more. You can see there is an actual volume knob here. The steering wheel essentially comes out of a Corolla where you have paddles on the wheel. You have your controls for the audio controls for your cruise control with their Safety Sense 3.0. The steering wheel itself has a manual tilt and telescoping function. It offers a decent amount of adjustability and range. Unfortunately, the horn sounds pathetic, just like on the Corolla sedan, so that's something that I would probably want to swap out if I was an owner of this vehicle. No heads-up display on this upper portion of the dash. You can see it's completely hard-touch plastic, slightly padded over here. It's the same material as the door panel, kind of going over to this portion of the dash with the faux stitching, which is nice. Over here, however, it is hard-touch plastic, and I don't also like how this kind of protrudes out. It makes the interior feel a little bit more cramped. You do have some controls here for the dimmer, for your auto high beam, stability control off switch, of course. And then over here you can see the dash is pretty identical to a Corolla sedan. I don't love it. It's very just bland. It feels very drab and dreary. So I would like to see Toyota upgrade the dash for the next generation Corolla. Obviously, you can see you have dual zone climate control, automatic. It's only on this XSE grade. If you want heated seats, they are an actual hard button, just either low or high. And then this vehicle also offers embedded GPS as well, but most people are going to be using the CarPlay. Toyota's connected car system works very well. And again, it's just a huge improvement. The screen is just a little bit too small. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your backup camera with trajectory, distance markers, parking sensors in the rear. It also has cross-traffic braking. The resolution is also fine. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. It certainly gets the job done. And then down here, you can see there's a USB-C port. For 2024, Toyota did update the design of the wireless charger. You can see if I kind of stick my camera in there, it has a deeper design, and it also switched the orientation. My iPhone 14 Pro Max kind of just fits perfectly in this little bin. And because it's basically the correct size and it fits perfectly, it also reliably charges my smartphone. So that's a really nice upgrade. This is, again, the only thing that's changed on the interior for the 2024 model, aside from if you guys go for a nightshade edition, that'll have a different seat material. Now you can see traditional shifter for the electronic CVT. Your drive mode selector is here. There's a total of 3, Eco, Normal, and Sport. There's also an EV setting here where if I push the EV button, if the battery has enough charge, it'll allow you to coast along on electric only for low speeds at light throttle applications. As soon as you put your foot down too much, it'll wake the engine up to give you more power. There's some piano black plastic here on the center console, cup holders. You have a nice padded center console here, although it could be a little more padded. Open this up, you can see that does feel a little bit on the cheap side. You have another USB port in here, a 12-volt power outlet. It's a decent sized center console as well. It's not lit up or anything like that, but again, you don't expect too much in this particular segment. The seats, like I said earlier, are heated and they also feel relatively comfortable. They hold you in place nicely, but the passenger seat here is completely manual. I would have liked to see perhaps perforation. I also would like to see a lighter color interior to break up the dreariness in here. You can see the glove box. If you open it up, it's a bin style. It's damped but not lined with felt. You don't have an auto dimming rearview mirror. It's just a manual one, but it is a nice frameless design, which is good. You have LED map lighting in here, and you also have the sunroof, part of the convenience package, which has a traditional shade. You can also tilt it and it'll open up entirely. But overall, the interior offers no frills. It's really easy to use and you can see out of it nicely. It doesn't feel quite as spacious as some of the competitors. Not the best visibility either compared to like a Crosstrek. This pillar is on the thick side, but it's still a relatively nice place to spend time. But I would like to see Toyota really give the Corolla in general a more upscale feeling cabin for the next generation. But let's go ahead and pop out of here and go into the back seat area. This is where the Corolla Cross does, again, give up some practicality compared to its competitors. You can see the door. I wish it opened up a little bit larger. And then you can see back here, Toyota says there's around 32 inches of legroom. 32 inches is very small. Something like the Honda HR-V will offer around 5.5 more inches. The Crosstrek will offer around 4 more inches of legroom. So that's kind of a problem. You can see the seat doesn't offer a recline. You can obviously fold this down to expand the cargo capacity, and it creates an almost flat floor. I believe the battery actually lives underneath the rear seat. Door panel materials are slightly hard touch plastic with that faux stitch look, although it's not actually, soft at all. You can see it is padded over here. Like I said earlier, one touch up down for the rear windows, which is definitely a nice touch. Now, as I get back here, you can see the space back here at 32 inches of legroom isn't wonderful, but for somebody my height, this is where I'd have the seat to drive. You can see it's not bad. There's good foot space underneath here. The floor is not completely flat. If I wanted to sit back here and cross my legs, you can see I kind of have to like cantilever my leg to make it fit through this little narrow opening, which I don't love. In terms of the headroom space here, you can see it actually has a decent amount of headroom, but remember, I'm not the tallest at 5'7". The sunroof does take up a little bit of space. You do have some unexpected features here like rear seat air vents. I don't think Subaru offers that on the Crosstrek. And you also have 2 more USB-Cs down here. No heated rear seats, wasn't expecting to find that. You do have one storage cubby or map pocket there, and then you can see in the center here, you have an armrest that folds down, gives you 2 cup holders, the same kind of nice blue accent stitching and materials here, which is nice. But overall, if you guys require a bigger back seat, the HR-V has one, the Kia Seltos has a bigger back seat, the Crosstrek has a bigger back seat. So this is where Toyota has some work to do for the next generation Corolla Cross. So here we are behind the wheel of the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. This vehicle has been out for 2 model years now, and last year Toyota introduced the hybrid version of the Corolla Cross, and it's really the only hybrid that you're going to find in the subcompact SUV segment. With 196 horsepower, this is among the most powerful as well. Really only something like the Mazda CX-30 Turbo is going to offer more power than this vehicle. This also has more power than the Crosstrek, the HR-V, the Hyundai Kona with its turbocharged engine, so this is a pretty good amount of power, and it also comes standard with all-wheel drive. Now, the last time I tested this vehicle 0 to 60 wise on this stretch, it got a little over 7 seconds. Let's see what we can get this time. The road is a little damp. You can see it's a little bit rainy right now. Spitting out the front tires because remember the rear axle is powered by a separate electric motor. 0 to 60 in 6.99 seconds. That's actually a little faster than when I first tested this vehicle. And the road's a little damp, and you heard it spins out the front tires kind of comically. That's the kind of the case with a lot of the Toyota hybrid systems because the electric motor, it only powers the rear axle and it delivers like around 50-ish horsepower on its own. So most of the time this vehicle is going to be primarily front drive biased, but really that power, that acceleration is very impressive. It's pretty similar to the last Prius with all-wheel drive that I tested. I mean, the 2 cars weigh pretty similarly, so it doesn't surprise me. But really, this is also much quicker versus the Toyota Corolla sedan hybrid. So that's one thing I do like about the Corolla Cross, is it offers pretty good amount of power, especially considering this class isn't typically known for being quick. But we'll floor it this time without brake torquing it. Not as much wheel spin at least. 7.89 there, that's without brake torquing it. So it does make a considerable difference. That stretch over there is also with it slightly more uphill. I'd say it probably shaves almost a half a second off the 0 to 60 time if you don't or if you brake torque it, which most people are going to do. I really just do it to show you guys for demonstration purposes the quickest possible way to get off the line with these vehicles. But nevertheless, most people are going to be quite happy with a mid 7-second range 0 to 60. The 6.9 is definitely a lot faster than a lot of its competitors. I mean, compared to something like the Honda HR-V, that takes around 9 seconds. This is about 2 seconds faster. It's also about 1 second to 2 seconds quicker versus the Subaru Crosstrek, depending on what powertrain you get. But really, the Corolla Cross's powertrain, the hybrid at least, is the strong suit of this vehicle. The fact that Toyota is the only, manufacturer that offers a hybrid also really shows you that I think that there needs to be more options. Like Subaru, for example, we've been waiting for them to reintroduce a hybrid again. There was a plug-in hybrid model of the Crosstrek, but it never sold well because it was just too compromised, even the most recent rendition. But just driving the Corolla Cross normally, this is also a very comfortable urban runabout SUV. It sits up higher, obviously, than a regular Corolla. It's got around 8 inches of ground clearance. You don't get a sense that you're driving quite as high up in the air as something like a Toyota RAV4 or a Crosstrek. But this car is comfortable. I like the seats in this vehicle as well. The XSE is the only trim to give you the soft text with the blue accents. The new Nightshade also gives you the soft text, but without the blue accents that you get with this XSE grade. There is a little bit more noise in this car than I would like. It kind of reminds you that the Corolla Cross is built to a lower price point than the RAV4. Put my foot down here, you can see the road is a little bit wet. The tires are spinning. We have an 18-inch wheel, but the CVT, as you guys can hear, does a pretty good job of just accelerating this vehicle forward. It really just kind of shows you that a hybrid powertrain works best with a CVT as opposed to a stepped automatic. And it does a really good job of just putting the power down. And anytime my foot goes down, it just automatically will shift ratios. And you don't even need to push the power or put the pedal down that hard to accelerate. So I've had the vehicle in sport mode most of the times during this driving scene. And now I've switched it back into its normal setting. The gauge display kind of goes back to its normal color as opposed to the red hue. And this is where that electric motor torque is going to really come into play, because it makes the car feel a lot faster in day-to-day driving that I think is going to make this thing feel a lot more refined and a lot more effortless in terms of feel, because as you guys know, electric motors provide instantaneous torque. This is the same powertrain out of the Prius. Put my foot down here, we'll just accelerate normally. Literally, I just put it down like not even a quarter throttle, but it gets up to speed just fine. You do hear that 2-liter still making a lot of racket. It's not the smoothest or quietest engine in the segment, but it's not bad. It's pretty much on par with the other vehicles in the segment. The HR-V also has a droning 4-cylinder. The Crosstrek's 4-cylinder can also be somewhat drony. The handling of the Corolla Cross is, I wouldn't say sporty, even though the XSE trim tries to promise a sportier driving dynamic. You don't really get that sense when you're behind the wheel of this vehicle. It feels, or the steering is really numb, transmits nothing in terms of feedback. I really can't feel what the front tires are doing. The suspension is also soft, even though it's kind of a sport-tuned suspension, but it's also still, not playful in a way that a Mazda CX-30 would be. Even the Crosstrek to me feels a little bit sportier to drive. And that's kind of where the Corolla Cross is let down. In the handling dynamics, it feels too soft and too numb and too devoid of feel, even though it has really good acceleration in terms of, the hybrid powertrain. The seats are comfortable. The visibility in here is also pretty good. I can see it on the front, the side, the rear nicely. There's no digital camera rearview mirror. I wasn't expecting that in this class. I do have paddles on the wheel here where I can control the manual shift mode of the CVT, where it tries to give you these fake gears. I think it gives you a total of five gears. It looks like only 5 ratios to choose from, which is surprising. I was expecting it to have more, although it may not actually give me more ratios because I'm only going like 40 miles an hour right now. So I want to say it gives you at least 7 or 8 ratios when you get up to highway speeds. No heads-up display, obviously. You do get heated seats, but no cooled seats. You don't typically find that in this segment. And then in terms of the driver assistance tech, Toyota's Safety Sense 3.0 is going to be standard, which means this vehicle has adaptive cruise control, traffic jam assistance, lane keep assist, all that stuff, and it's also standard, which is nice. some competitors make you pay a little bit extra for it. Now, in terms of the fuel efficiency, in my week's worth of testing, this vehicle averaged around 42 MPG in mixed driving. 42 is pretty much bang on what the EPA says. You can get as much as 45 in the city. On the highway, the best that I was averaging was around 36 miles to the gallon, so a little bit less than what the EPA says. These hybrids typically do better in around town driving. Versus the highway where you're having more aerodynamic drag. This vehicle is definitely not as aerodynamic as a Prius, and that's why the fuel economy is not as great. You have a very small 10.5 gallon fuel tank. It's kind of similar to the Lexus UX, which, by the way, the UX just got this powertrain as well for 2025, so I'm hoping I'll be able to get one to test for a full week. In terms of the range, you'll do roughly around just under 400 miles of range, and that's because of the smaller fuel tank. This is where, the bigger 15-gallon tank in a RAV4 hybrid will get you another 100 miles of range easily. But in terms of, if you're going to take this vehicle out on a lot of road trips, the seats are comfortable, but you do have to deal with a little bit more noise than you would like. And that's probably where you'd want to check out like the Lexus UX if you want to spend a little bit more money. The luxury version basically of this car is going to give you more of that, quietness, that serenity that you're looking for. But overall, the Corolla Cross is still a pretty solid choice. I think what I would like to see Toyota do is improve the handling and steering for the XSE trim specifically. It should feel, I want to feel some of the fire that I feel in a GR Corolla, just some of it, not all of it. And then I would also like to see them do like a woodland edition of the Corolla Cross Hybrid, a more off-roady overlanding edition to kind of go head-to-head with the Crosstrek. I think that segment or that style is really what people are looking for. And I think without a model like that, it's going to continue to kind of limit the appeal of the Corolla Cross, although the company's sales have been up, and they were up about 25% versus the previous year. So now that the Corolla Cross is in its second year of production here in America, we have a better understanding of the actual sales numbers. And last year in America in 2023, Toyota managed to sell a little over 71,000 Corolla Crosses here in the US. That represents around a 25% sales bump versus the previous year in 2022. And it was also the first year of the hybrid, and Toyota said about 22% of actual Corolla Cross customers purchased the hybrid. So that's a pretty healthy chunk. I wouldn't be surprised to see that number continue to increase, because remember, this is the only hybrid option that you're going to find in the subcompact SUV segment. And after living with the latest Corolla Cross for a full week, this is still a very comfortable urban runabout SUV. It's really easy to drive. It has surprisingly comfortable seats. It has really excellent acceleration from its hybrid powertrain. The acceleration, while it is slightly slower versus the Speed King in the segment, which is the Mazda CX-30 Turbo, the Corolla Cross Hybrid will easily get way better MPG, about double the MPG versus that turbocharged Mazda. It'll do about 10 MPG better versus a Subaru Crosstrek in the city, and that's what again makes the Corolla Cross so appealing. Really, where this vehicle lets me down as an enthusiast is in the driving dynamics. The steering is dead in terms of on-center feel and just road feel in general. The suspension, it's supposed to be a sport-tuned suspension, but it still feels incredibly soft. That translates into a really good ride quality, but again, the noises that you hear from the engine and the road noise and the wind noise remind you that you're driving a more affordable vehicle. So my recommendation is check out some of the competitors. A Subaru Crosstrek to me is a little bit quieter, and it also offers more space. But again, the Subaru doesn't offer the hybrid capabilities. The back seat of this vehicle is also on the small side along with the cargo space. So that I think is also kind of limiting the appeal of the Corolla Cross. It's probably making people just go up into a RAV4 because again, at that point, you're not really spending that much more money. But overall, I think this is a much better vehicle versus the CHR that it replaces. But if Toyota wants a bigger piece of the pie, which by the way, the top seller, the Crosstrek, did roughly twice as many vehicles as Toyota did for the Corolla Cross. The HRV also did more at over 120,000 units. Even the Hyundai Kona and the Mazda CX-30 outsold the Corolla Cross, although not by much, less than 10,000 units. So really, I think Toyota, once they make some of the changes that I suggested, but really it'll probably take a full redesign to actually improve the interior space. But in terms of tech, they could improve that. In terms of offering an more off-road capable version, they could definitely look into offering that. Now, if you guys are looking to put a Corolla Cross in your driveway because you must have a hybrid powertrain, this is where the hybrid version is going to cost you about $5,000 more versus a base Corolla Cross, because a base version starts at around $23,800. It's actually a couple thousand cheaper than the Crosstrek or the HRV. The hybrid's going to start at around around $28,000. Again, that comes standard with all-wheel drive. That's like an $1,800 upcharge if you guys want that on the gas-only version. This XSE that I'm showing you starts at just over 31 grand, but with the convenience package that it adds, the two-tone blue crush and the black roof, the JBL sound system, of course, this model here with destination comes in at just under 36,000, like 35,900, which sounds expensive, but that's actually right in line with a fully loaded version of a Crosstrek. The HRV is going to be around 3 grand less expensive. A Kona is also going to be around the same price. Keep that in mind as well. A Mazda CX-30 at the top end will also be the same price. So Toyota has priced this well. I just think that they need to kind of address some of the issues in order to appeal that I mentioned in order to appeal to an even more greater audience. But overall, I think that if you guys want a hybrid and you don't necessarily need the most off-road capability or the biggest backseat or interior space, you should definitely still put this one at the top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2024 Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.